Steeler Nation, it's time for the home opener. It is time for the Pittsburgh Steelers to come back to the Steel City and take the field at Yinz Field. And it's time for us to get to 3-0. We got a matchup of two 2-0 teams this Sunday afternoon as the Los Angeles Chargers come on into town in what should be a physical game. We got a Harbaugh coming in, and if you know me and all my years of watching football and being a Steeler fan, you know that I can't stand the damn Harbaughs, man. And I want this dub more than anything right now, and I want this offense to come out and have a breakout game. Let's get on into it. What's going on, everybody? Mac back with another video. As always, do me a favor. Like, comment, subscribe, follow on Instagram. Link is in the box below. The 2-0 Los Angeles Chargers taking on the 2-0 Pittsburgh Steelers this Sunday afternoon. And this is my pregame preview of this game. So, let's talk about our opponent for a little bit because I did watch Mike Tomlin's press game conference on Tuesday afternoon, as I usually do, and there's one thing that I want to address about that. Not going to go full into detail about it, but there's one thing I just want to address. But you take a look at the Chargers, man. They're 2-0 on the season, and, you know, I'm certainly not taking anything away from them. It's good that they, you know, you got to get wins however you can at this juncture in the NFL because, you know, winning is not easy in the NFL. But the Chargers, they beat two teams that aren't very eye-popping when you look on the schedule. They beat the Raiders week 1 by a final of 22-10. That was a game that suggests the Chargers dominated, but not really. I mean, the offense took a little bit to find a rhythm and to get things going, but then the Chargers pulled away and they were on the heels of J.K. Dobbins, who just busted out in that game, and they won it 22-10. A bad coaching decision by Antonio Pierce pretty much gave all momentum to the Chargers. And then, of course, last Sunday, they blew the doors off of the Carolina Panthers 26-3. Obviously the Panthers are the worst team in the NFL. So, I mean, LA just came in and straight up dominated that. But in that game against the Raiders that they had, the Raiders didn't really have that kind of guy that was able to give Devontae Adams the ball, one of the best, if not the best receiver in the game right now. They didn't really have that guy in Gardner Minshew to give him, you know, to give him the ball. And Justin Fields, although his numbers aren't eye-popping to start off the season, he can be that kind of guy to get the ball to George Pickens. And, you know, I know how Jim Harbaugh works because at the end of the day, he's still a Harbaugh. And I know that his mentality is, okay, we're going to give you one guy to focus on, and we're going to make you beat us with your other 10. I think that's what the Steelers have to come in with here, as I know for sure that they're most likely going to be doubling up on George Pickens all day. So this is where really getting that number 2 option, be it Pat Freiermuth, who I would love to see attack the middle of the field, whether it be Van Jefferson finally pulling his head from out of his ass, whether getting Roman Wilson involved a little bit more. You get the point. I need to see a solid number 2 receiver coming up in this one because, like I said, Harbaugh is going to go, okay, here's my guy, make your other 10 beat us. The Steelers have to have that mindset as well, and I think we're capable of doing that, okay? But that's the Chargers for you. They're 2-0 to start off the season. Like I said, not taking anything away from them. 2-0 is 2-0. But let's not pretend like the two teams that they beat were world beaters. I think this is a true test for both teams coming into this one because the two teams that we beat, you know, Atlanta, they're a decent team. They're solid. They're okay. I mean, they're not great either, but they're better than what they were last year, in my opinion. They're off to an okay start. And then we beat the Denver Broncos, who they're not really good either. The Broncos, they have a case for being one of the worst teams as well. Okay. But you take a look at the Chargers. First year under head coach Jim Harbaugh making his return to the NFL, and under their new offensive coordinator in Greg Roman, another former Ravens guy. They run a very modern pro kind of spread offense under Greg Roman. So obviously they've been very run heavy to start off the season. That's what Greg Roman usually is. And I think that's going to be a signal caller for the passing game to open up right there. But the biggest flaw that Greg Roman has that a lot of Raven fans did not appreciate about him, and that made Lamar Jackson's passing game look worse than what it was. Not that I think Lamar is a good passer anyway, but the biggest reason is that Greg Roman was never able to design a good passing attack. So right off the bat, one of my key victories to right here is that you got to be able to get the Chargers off to a slow start offensively. Going back to what I said about that week 1 game against the Raiders, like I said, they weren't completely dominant in that game. It took the Chargers a little bit to really get things going on offense, and I feel like that's a big weakness for them because the Raiders, their defense really isn't all that great. They're not the kind of defense that's locked down. They're going to get up in your face and they're going to keep you off the scoreboard for the whole game. We do have that kind of defense. Okay. We're talking about a Steeler defense that's very physical. They're going to load up the front. They're going to get pressure on you all day. And this is the type of game to where I need to see personnel and depth being used a lot, whether it be in the slot like Corey Trice. He had that great pick on Bo Nix in the back of the end zone on Sunday. A 3 safety scheme. So get Deshaun Elliott in there. Maybe put him on McConkey, that they maybe get him on Lad McConkey a little bit right there that they have as a target. And, I would probably just go Brian Flores blitz kind of style on them all day. Basically just the kind of defense that the Steelers are known for with Alex Highsmith and TJ Watt. TJ Watt, no doubt he's going to be going up against Joe Alt. That's going to be a good matchup to focus on right there. Joe Alt, a really good, promising offensive lineman that's been in the league, and the Chargers are really high on him. He's going to have a big test on Sunday as he's going up against TJ Watt. And then, of course, you got Highsmith coming in from the other side. So, like I said, you got to expose that weakness of the Chargers offense right there. And it's that Greg Roman does not really have a good design for a good pass attack. So open that up for him right there. That's my first key to victory. Now, other than that, you take a look at the Chargers defense. Okay. They're under Jesse Minter. They run a very 3-4 type of defense under Mike McDonald, yet another former Raven guy. So this is a matchup of 2 top scoring defenses in the league. Like I said, I think it's going to be a very physical type of game, just your basic 20-17 type of game. Who blinks first on defense? And you take a look at some of the standouts that the Chargers have on defense. You take a look at Joey Bosa. He's going to be going up against Troy Fautanu in this one. I have no doubt about that. Fautanu finally getting that green light at right tackle. I'm going to get to Fautanu in just a little bit. But you got Joey Bosa. You got Khalil Mack. You got Derwin James. You got Christian Fulton in the secondary. Like I said, very physical brand type of defense. And I think, like I said, that's where you got to attack the middle of the field right there. Get that number 2 receiver involved. Another key to victory that I have right here, obviously, you got to limit the penalties. 10 penalties against Denver last week. That's inexcusable. You're not going to win a whole lot of games when you commit that many type of penalties. Obviously, like I said, you can get away with that against a team like the Broncos because they're not very good. But against a Charger team like this, that's off to a hot start, that's off to a physical start, and a Charger team that can run the ball against you, you're not going to get away with that because if there's one thing that the Chargers for sure have done well to start off this young season, it's that they have ran the ball very well. AKA J.K. Dobbins, another former Raven. Lots of former Ravens in this matchup right here. It seems to be a trend. But J.K. Dobbins is the first guy that I'm thinking of, the league leader in rushing so far, averaging over 13 yards a carry on 27 carries. That's just incredible. Amazing what J.K. Dobbins has been able to do. Very injury prone over in Baltimore. And right now he's looking like an all-pro running back out in LA. So that's definitely something that the Steelers defense is going to have to be ready for, which is why I need to see the interior linebacking core step up big time here. If there's one thing that really worries me about the Steeler defense, it's that our run defense has never really been at its best. Like I said, run defense, very boomer bust. When our run defense is good, it's amazing, just about the best in the league. But when it's off, it's really off. Like, tackles can't be finished. They allow big chunks of yards. They have running backs or mobile quarterbacks slip right through them. They can't finish up plays. And that's something that I'm very concerned about for this game. Sure, we held Bijan Robinson to under 4 yards a carry in week 1, and the Falcons are really high on Bijan Robinson. But the fact is, we didn't really need to see Bijan being used all that much because we kept Atlanta in a deficit throughout much of the game, and they got to a situation where Kirk Cousins had to win them the game. Can we do that against the Chargers? Can we make a guy like Justin Herbert work? And you take a look at Justin Herbert, I think that's where their offense starts with him. In my opinion, Justin Herbert is a top 10 quarterback in the league. He's been praised for his arm strength and his size as well. I mean, Justin Herbert, we all know the type of arm that he has. He has just an AK-47 for an arm, basically. Guy has a powerful arm. His deep ball is probably the best in the game, and he's accurate too. So that's going to be a tall order right there. However, the one thing, in my opinion, that has really held Justin Herbert back from being top 5, because I will say that he's top 10. He barely misses top 5, in my opinion. The one thing that has really said to me that, Justin Herbert, he's a great quarterback. He's a phenom, but he's definitely beatable. He does not have great pocket presence at the same time. And like that just goes back to what I said. I want to see all out full Brian Flores blitz, get to Justin Herbert, and create and make him uncomfortable in the pocket. This is where TJ has to come in. This is where Highsmith has to come in and just create and just make life rough for Justin Herbert, man. Justin Herbert is questionable with this game. Last time I checked, I didn't see the full report of that. He's been dealing with a little bit of an ankle injury, but Jim Harbaugh said that the x-rays were negative and he is expected to play. So I am under the impression that Justin Herbert is going to play in this game. I mean, why shouldn't he play? But yeah, you got to get you got to just be able to limit the Chargers as much as you can. You got to take them off the field. And that's why I said you got to take advantage of these opportunities and limit the penalties. 1 touchdown through 2 weeks. Okay? 1 touchdown through 2 weeks. Could have been a lot more, but the penalties and just the lack of blocking and the lack of playmaking ability hasn't been able to do that, hasn't been able to make that possible for us. All right? Eat up a lot of the clock. If there's one thing that the Steelers did well in the first half against the Broncos last week, is that we ate up a ton of the clock. You take a look at that touchdown drive that Justin Fields had to Darnell Washington, of all people. Okay, we had a 7.5-minute drive on that touchdown. That's the type of drive that we need going into this game. We got to tire out that Charger defense. Keep them off, keep the offense off the field for as much as possible, and keep LA's defense on the field. So that way our defense, it has less pressure to work with, and we can take advantage of some of the things that the Chargers have going against them in this game. Okay? But the opportunities need to be there. You have to score touchdowns when you have a chance to. Chris Boswell, I love seeing him be 8 for 8 on field goals this year, 4 for 4 from 50 plus. But like I said, you're not going to win very many games when most of your points are coming from field goals. You got to score touchdowns in this game. And then finally, you just got to win in the trenches. It's old school type of football right here. A very underrated aspect about the Chargers offense is that their O-line is really good. They have a really good O-line over there in LA. They block well. It can create some mismatches as far as the defense goes. But if there's one thing that the Steelers have persevered through, is that the defense has shown that they can overcome a solid offensive line. We saw that in Atlanta in week 1. The Falcons had a really good O-line, and TJ Watt was just all over Kirk Cousins all day in that game. I need to see the same thing on Sunday against the Chargers. We can beat this offensive line, even though it is one of the best in the league. Now, here's something that I want to get into, okay, to wrap up my preview, is that I saw Mike Tomlin on his Tuesday press conference, and one of the quotes that he said when he was asked about basically the right tackle side experiment of the offensive line and why Broderick Jones was still there, he basically said, well, I was afraid. Well, I didn't know how the fatigue would affect Troy Fautanu, so that's why Broderick Jones started at right for the majority of the game. But then when I saw it was an issue and I saw that it didn't affect Troy Fautanu, I put him in there. So basically what Mike Tomlin said right there is that he was afraid, okay? He was fearful, keyword right that, fearful that the fatigue would affect a rookie who you took in the first round of the draft with your first pick, because he doesn't have that kind of experience yet. And this is coming from a head coach who always says, we don't live in our fears. So, in other words, Tomlin was living in his fears once again that Troy Fautanu, a rookie, was going to get impacted by the fatigue against a Bronco defense that was basically non-existent for the first half of the game. And then when it was convenient for him, he decided to put him in the game when the Steelers were making it when the Broncos were making it closer than it should have been. You cannot do that. Like I said, how many times has Mike Tomlin made a game plan revolving around the fact that the opponent made the game closer than it should be over the course of his 17 years being head coach? Now, thankfully, Troy Fautanu is starting at right tackle with this game. But what are you afraid of, Mike? What are you afraid of? It didn't seem like he was fatigued at all. He gave up zero pressures against the Broncos. So what are you waiting for? That right side experiment with Broderick Jones is the reason why a lot of Steeler fans are losing faith in Broderick Jones, because he's out of position. He is not built for the right side. Stick him on the left side, and if Broderick Jones still is getting pancaked and he's still getting tossed around, then you know you have a problem with Broderick Jones. But Troy Fautanu, he looked flawless. Looked absolutely flawless. So that's something right there. Thankfully, Fautanu's going to be starting at right guard. Right tackle. Zero pressures he gave up. Okay? So that's it right there. Don't get cute. Don't get fancy. All right? So defense, I need to see some schemes as well. I need to see some guys stand up as well because aside from J.K. Dobbins, it's also been a story of Gus Edwards, yet another former Raven, yet another former injury-prone guy that the Ravens had who they shipped off to L.A. Gus Edwards has been productive. And the Chargers, they basically got rid of all their receivers in the offseason, but you take a look at guys like Quinion Johnson or Ladd McConkey, like I said, they're high on him. They don't really have a true number one lockdown guy as far as offense, or a true number one receiver as far as offense goes, where we do have that lockdown guy on defense. It can be JPJ. Corey Trice, you stick him in the slot. I think he thrives there. I think JPJ is going to be on Quinion Johnson for the whole game. Maybe put Beanie Bishop against McConkey in the slot a little bit because I don't think Beanie Bishop is the type of guy, that can go out there and play press. I like him in the slot a little bit more, so just use your depth. Use what got you to be 2-0, and just stop with all the experiments. You know where players should be. So stop experimenting. All right. But regardless, it should be a nice matchup. Chargers and Steelers do have some history with each other. They've met in the playoffs 3 times. LA's won 2 of the 3 matchups, actually. Beat us in 82 when the Steelers really weren't favored to do anything that season. They gratefully upset us in the 1995 AFC Championship, where the Steelers were heavily favored and they blew a fourth quarter lead against the Chargers, and everyone was anticipating a 49ers-Steelers Super Bowl that season, but the Chargers went on to the Super Bowl and they got manhandled by the 49ers. And then, of course, the 2009 AFC Divisional, where the Steelers won 35-24. That was en route to our Super Bowl 43 victory. Chargers have won the last 2 matchups in Pittsburgh, I will say. But, you can't let history intimidate you right here. It's a battle of 2-0 teams right now, and you got to focus on what these teams have to offer. So play smart, use your depth, limit the penalties, take advantages, and you got to fight. You got to win this chess matchup right here by being the more physical team. And I think we can come away at 3-0, head on to Indianapolis, and take advantage of a Colts team that is off to a slow start next week. But yeah, let's get it on, man. It's a big test for both teams. A lot of people are saying these are the 2 most fraudulent 2-0 teams in the league. And I think if either team wins this game, then you have a case that their 3-0 start could be legit. But we'll see. Anyway, let me know what you think down in the comments below. Football is back in Pittsburgh. Mac, checking on out for the day. Have a good one, everybody.